What's going on, everyone? Thanks for tuning in to Mac and Fish podcast. I'm Coach McKinley Roll, and I'm here with my co-host Charles Fishbein, better known as Fish. Fish, what's going on?
How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good, man. I'm good. I think we have a great show this episode. Today, we're going to touch on JUCO football. We have two great representatives that can speak on JUCO football. Fish, give me your thoughts on JUCO.
Yeah, it's become bigger and bigger as you get more into college football. It's kind of become part of almost like free agency. JUCO football has become huge. You go all the way back to what Walter Jones did at Florida State, and ended up an All-American, ended up a Pro Bowler, and he filled a major need. So you could get these guys that are grown men. They're not high school young kids at that point. You get them, they're grown up. A lot of them have to learn, being at a JUCO, the responsibilities. I remember Coach Schiano used to always say, you could go two ways. If you go the JUCO route, it's like being on the highway and getting off and exiting. You have to, have the right frame of mind to go to one of these junior colleges and stay the course, and then eventually go on to a 4-year school and still have success. But it's become such an important thing. You look at the Alabamas, how many guys they've taken at the JUCO level, and a lot of these schools, Auburn, Cam Newton's probably one of the most famous junior college guys out of Blinn. But Coach, Beam is going to, elaborate a little more on it because he has so much more experience. The one thing going into Coach Beam, I'm looking at some of the stuff I looked up, 160-33 at Skyline High School as a high school coach in Oakland, 15 league championships. You're talking about 4 undefeated seasons, put in over 100 players into the Division I ranks. I mean, these are stats that probably aren't duplicated by too many junior college coaches. A 90% graduation rate. I mean, that's wow. You don't even see that at the high school level, let alone guys that struggle at the high school level and have to go to JUCO to get their grades up. Tremendous job by Coach Bean and his staff being able to do a lot of these and things and being so successful. And that's why I was so excited and eager to get Coach Bean on our podcast today.
Yeah, we're thrilled to have Coach Beam. I was able to watch the Last Chance U on Netflix, and Coach, I just wanted to let you know, man, I have a lot of respect for you, how you run your program, and it came off very well. I think you're a great representative of Oakland and Laney, the college there, and just wish you best of luck. And you're a legend, so we're glad to have you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you. I know Fish and I met way back, I think about 2005, 2006. We did the All-American game down in Orlando with Chuck Muncie, and then it was phenomenal. We had the Ponces. We had Star Ukulele. I mean, we just had dudes, right? And so Fish was a guy that already knew these guys. I mean, I was surprised how he just knew all these great players and great evaluator of talent. So I really appreciate coming on the show. I think one of the things that you talked about, the reason that junior college football or community college football is such a great avenue is this. I want you to you're an 18-year-old kid. You're going to leave your house for the first time, and you get recruited across the country somewhere, especially if you're from California, right? So you're leaving sunny California. You go somewhere where it's rainy, it's snowing, you're away from your mom for the first time, and then you're not playing. Kids, that doesn't work for them, right? They're like, oh man, this is not good, and they end up getting homesick, right? Different things happen, and they come and then they leave. But when you come out of a JC, out of a community college, you're now 20 years old, and so when you go to leave, your mama's ready for you to leave. You're ready to leave your mama, right? So you go and you want to be out. Plus, the Florida States, Alabama. You guys talked about Alabama. Alabama does a great job recruiting JC players. They're bringing you in to start. They're bringing people not to develop, but to start. They see you. You've already been playing against grown men, and they're bringing you in to play right now. And so I think the JC is a great avenue for a lot of people. I mean, we have a guy, C.J. Anderson played in the Pro Bowl, went to 3 Super Bowls, right? 2 with Denver, 1 with L.A. And, he was not recruited out of high school. He had some great issues, but he was a quarterback. When he came to Laney, I said, Coach, he goes, Coach, I want to play running back. I said, well, all the D1 guys are telling me you're a DB. He goes, Coach, I want to be a running back. I said, you sure? What's your heart? He said, my heart's being a running back. I said, all right. I made him a running back. He led the state in rushing, went to Cal. Next thing you know, he's with the Broncos. And here's the deal. When he went to the Broncos, he was a free agent. Well, I want to think that because he went the JC route, he was used to adversity. He was used to people not believing in him. So when he got to campus, like one more time, he had that chip like, okay, someone doesn't believe in me again. And he had to prove himself. And sure enough, now he ends out being a Pro Bowl. He's got a Super Bowl ring. I mean, those are good things, right? So I want people to understand when you go to a JC, it's not being banished to the Siberia or something. It actually can be a really, really good thing. Fish talked about it a little bit. It helps you mature, helps you become a better student. You know, for us, I mean, you're going to have to learn how to be a student, right? A student athlete, not just an athlete. And it's tough, right? You got to learn how to time manage. All those things that we're preparing you so that when you do go to the 4-year school, you're going to be able to thrive. It's not going to be a culture shock to be having to go to class and have to do all these different things. So I think it's a real good avenue for folks.
Yeah, you know, the one thing that I look at, you know, I actually went to junior college myself at Pasadena City College. So coming from Miami, going out to California, I first went to music school. So going from one big city to another didn't really affect me that much. You know, most of my life, I always grew up in big cities, but you take a lot of these junior colleges that you've seen on other episodes, and they're really small towns. You know, how do guys adjust to a big city like Oakland or, you know, you're talking down in LA or Oakland? These are big cities. How do guys adjust? Because you have so much at your disposal. You know, there's so many distractions as a football player that can affect, you know, you off the field. Forget about on the field, all the distractions off the field.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that as a staff, or myself in particular, right, I want to teach you to be a man. And so when you come out to a JC, right, you know, in California, there's no scholarships, right? So you can get your Pell Grant and everything, but that's not going to cover everything. You might have to work a job as well, or your parents are helping you. And I'm like telling these guys, look, are you going to blow off your money? Did you come out to California to party? You could have stayed wherever you're at to party. You're coming here. This is a business trip for you, right? It's a 2-year business trip to get your skills ready so that you can go to the next level. That skill is the classroom. It's in the weight room, and it's on the learning technique on the field, right? And I think here's the other part. You're learning how to get along with people that you don't know, right? To start bonding with a group of folks that may be totally different than you. And, you know, Oakland's no joke. The town is about business, right? And you go to the wrong part of town, you're going to get the business. And so we try to help the kids understand, like, hey, you got to figure out where you're going. Right? They don't care that you're an athlete. You know, you walk in the wrong part of town, they're going to take your money, right? They're going to take your shoes, they're going to take your socks, they're going to take your drawers. And so we want to teach them how to understand that. But it's the same skill that you learn that, you know, to survive in life. You're going to need it at the Division I place, and you're going to need it in the NFL. I've seen guys come play for the Oakland Raiders, big-time players, and they start going around Oakland or the Bay, you know, just being in town. They get taken advantage of because they've never had to learn that city skill life, right? Just like one of our kids, if they went into a rural area, probably would like, oh man, how do I deal with this rural area? There's nothing around. And I think, you know, what most young guys do is they end up getting in their books. They're going to play video games, right? We try to have, in our place, we have a 20,000 square foot field house. We want them, they hang out there, kind of, you know, nurture them there. We're there all day. So they got a place to hang out. Shoot, one time, you know, the kids broke out the Monopoly game board, the real board, right? With dice and the whole nine, because they would have these games while they hung out because there's nothing to do at home. So they just hung out in the field house together and bonded. So I thought that was
Were they playing with real money or the fake money?
well, when I walked by, they had Monopoly money, but you don't know when I wasn't there. Anything could happen.
Yeah, you better get some cameras in that room.
You know, hustling's a hustling, right? So
Yeah,
and that's a good deal.
Well, Coach, I had the opportunity of coaching at Garden City in 2018. So, you know, I was able to see that that junior college experience up front. And we were able to play in the national title game. But, you know, in your opinion, how was that Last Chance U experience? And, you know, what do you think, like, you wish Netflix would have shown or, you know, that wasn't shown on TV?
So number one, I think it was a good experience, right? I think it was for us, the last two places have been in Scuba and they've been at Independence, right? I mean, in wherever, Independence, Kansas, right? So they had dorms, they had cafeterias. Well, in California, we don't have any of that. So it was good for people to see that, right? That, kids had to learn how to, be self-sufficient on their own. And, it's a little bit different deal. And I wanted people to see that. The other thing is that I was worried a little bit about, like, how are the kids going to act around cameras all day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the producers are really good. They go, Coach, think about it. Your kids are on camera every day, all day long because of Instagram and Twitter and all these different things. They're always filming each other. So being on a camera to them is nothing new. It's new to us as older adults, right?
Mm-hmm.
But not to them. So that was kind of a thing to think about. And the other thing is that if you watch Last Chance U, the one thing that I hope that gets conveyed is I'm about family. And, you come to Laney, you're going to be part of my family. Well, we made those camera crews and producers became part of our family too. Two of them actually, one of the cameramen grew up right around the corner from Laney, had a bad relationship with his dad, right? And yet here he comes back and he sees, oh, this is what could have been happening. You know what I mean? So he came back home. One of the producers went to a Catholic school down the way and knew a lot of the coaches and my assistant because they're the same age, right? They had the same circle of friends kind of growing up. And so, you're bearing your soul to them, but they're bearing their soul to you as well. So they start talking about their problems or the difficulties growing up as they see what we're doing. Now, if there was one thing that I wish they would have shown for me, would have been is that every Thursday is our study hall day, right? So our home games are on Friday. And so Thursday is a walkthrough half the time, and we do study hall that day, 2-hour study hall. But what I do on that day is I do a 30-minute kind of an enrichment where I bring in guest speakers. Because to me, your plan B should really be your plan A, right? You're blessed. You have family that played in the NFL, correct?
Yes, sir.
How long did they play in the NFL?
2 years.
Okay, that's great. That's about the average, right?
Yes, sir.
I had a guy play for 10-plus years, right? Well, when he was done, he's 32 years old. What's he going to do for the rest of his life?
Yeah.
And so we want to understand it. So I bring in all these ex-guys that played. Most of them play for me. All of them are black. And they come in and they start. That's what the police officer was, right? That was the Thursday that he came to do that, when he talked about the police and dealing with, young black men in the community. And so I bring in these guys in, and they talk about, like, one came in and talked about how he was dyslexic. And he was in trouble in school. He got kicked out of class on purpose because he didn't want to have to read out loud. And then he asked the kids, how many guys here have problems reading? Now, you got 100 dudes in there, right? No one wants to tell they can't read. And so he just kept saying, really, none of y'all have problems? And finally, 2 people, 5, 10, 11. So once we got 11 guys raising their hand, now I see that. I can go get them help.
Yeah.
And that's what he said. You got to be ready to ask for help, right? So I want to make sure. We had another guy come in, an NFL player, right? He was an Outland Trophy winner, Notre Dame guy, won a Super Bowl. He came in, he's a 6'5" black man. He talked about how he was sexually abused as a kid.
Wow.
Now, you tell me that's not deep?
Wow.
And the wounds that it caused for him to heal? But he shared that with these young brothers. And the young brothers, I'm not saying they had that same thing, but they had other traumas in their life. And so now they could express that to me. I had one guy come in, played at UCLA. He talked about how the coaches there wouldn't let him go to lab classes because he wanted to be a doctor. And so they try to keep it. So guess what? He's now a doctor, right? So, hey, you know what I'm saying? He got his priorities right.
Absolutely.
We do financial literacy, right? So how many guys do you know, you're talking to your family in the NFL, they get that weekly check, thinking that check goes every week for the whole year and not just 16 weeks, right?
Yep.
So we start talking about financial literacy, how to invest your money, how to buy a house, what the investments are. So that's the part I wish they would have shown. I mean, you also saw where I talked about, mental health and my wife being a therapist, right? And she is willing to work with. So she came in and a whole thing on mindfulness, teaching them how to breathe when they're stressed, right? When things are going bad, how can you recenter yourself? So I wish they would have shown all of that. I think it would have been nice. But I think you and everybody's telling me that you got that feeling from watching it.
Absolutely.
Me, I wish it would have been more of an important part because I think that's what I do. For 40 years, I've got all these guys that go to the NFL, right? And all these guys go to Division I, and I'm proud of that. Don't get me wrong. But I'm more proud of how many young men I've made turn into men, young black athletes or brown athletes or white athletes that I turn into men. that are now fathers who did not have fathers in their lives, who are husbands who did not see their mom with a husband. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of that. If we
Yeah,
put a stat up on that, I know I'll win the record. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I think that's something that gets overlooked as a coach is how successful are these players once they're done with football. You know, there's a lot of coaches I've seen that are, you know, they're tough on their kids and people are like, man, that coach is so tough. I remember Coach Trickett at Florida State was very tough. But if you looked at those guys once they were done with football and how successful they were, a lot of these guys ended up bankers. And I think that tough love, you saw it in your program when you watched Last Chance U, is that fine line of when you had to put the finger down on these guys and when to lay off. And you know, that's the one thing that I noticed, you know, especially with these Last Chance U's, is that these kids have so many things going on. And you're not just a head coach, a football coach, and like you're literally their therapist. I mean, everything. You're not personally. I don't think you guys are paid enough for what they ask of you as a coach. But it's amazing of how many jobs you really have. If you had all these titles, you'd run out of paper for all the titles you have.
You do, and I think one of the things that's different, like Fish, think about this for a minute, right? And this maybe makes me a little bit different than some, right? I have chosen not to leave Oakland. So since I'm in Oakland doing what I'm doing, right, I'm going to see that reward coming back, right? I get to see the fruits of my labor in essence, right? You know, whether there was one scene where the fire department came onto our field, a couple of guys. Well, that guy played for me. I thought he was a surefire NFL safety, right? 6'2", could run 4.5, you know, brought the hat. And, you know, but it didn't work out. He's got a degree. But more importantly, now he's a firefighter in Oakland. So he's helping the next generation of folks. And so that's huge for me. And so I want to make sure that that's what I do, you know, whereas if you're at Garden City or you're at Independence School, but I don't know that those kids will come back and be in that, you know, in that town after they leave, right? They're gone, right? It's kind of like a mercenary. They left. Well, our kids are going to come back and be a part of the community.
Coach, what as far as the next season, 2021, you guys have moved to the spring season, correct?
Yes.
So how has that been? You know, talk a little bit about that as far as, you know, you taking your program there and you being the athletic director. How have you been able to juggle all of that?
So it's been tough, to be honest. That's a great question because I spend, you know, most of my time learning about COVID and how to keep people safe from COVID and all the different things that are happening. And everything I learned this week, it changes next week because there's new science once a week, it seems like, right? Mm-hmm. And so I feel like I'm back in graduate school reading new articles and trying to learn stuff. At the same time, I'm trying to recruit players, right, and try to convince them to come to Laney. But here's the problem. A lot of these seniors, they're depressed, right? They didn't have their senior year. They didn't get to run in the state track meet. They didn't get to go to the prom. They didn't get to go to walk the stage that they've been waiting for 12 years to finally walk the stage, right? Mm-hmm. And now you're trying to convince them to come to a JC. And they just don't want to – they're not feeling you right now, right? They're not. They're like – it's hard. They don't want to – they don't know what they want to do. They don't even know they want to play. They don't want to go to school. Their parents are putting pressure on them. Hey, we need help at home. There's no money. You got to go get a job, you know. There is mental health issues going on, and I can't even provide the help I'd like to right now. I can do Zoom, but that's about it. So it's been really tough. The other piece I think is that for us on the plus side, my freshmen are coming back, like 4 or 5 of them already have offers. I'm telling them, hey, you great. You got this offer. You bust your ass in school this semester. Oh, we're going to go 6 classes, right? We're going to load up like in units. So you can get your AA degree in December. You're going to get to go to a 4-year school now and have 3 years of eligibility versus 2. So let's turn lemons into lemonade.
Well, Coach, you know, we always like to let our listeners get your social media handles. How can they follow you?
I'm Coach John Beam, I think, on Instagram.
Okay.
And let me see what I am on Twitter. Oh, @Beam_coach. So @Beam_coach. But I think it still goes under Coach John Beam. But can I just say this? For a guy that knows nothing about social media, I now have over 10,000 followers. So they say that means I get a blue check. Now, I don't know what a blue check is.
That means you're official, Coach. That means you're official.
So,
Coach, that's why we had you on here, to be honest with you. We saw the 10,000.
What?
Yeah, we know about those 10,000 followers. That's why we have you on now, you know?
Oh, and I
We're trying
know,
to
and I
steal
know
some of those guys.
my boy, Dame Lillard, he got blue checks. So I'm trying to be like him. I can't shoot as well as him, but, I used to, tell him, hey, come on down to the gym. Here, how good of a coach am I, Fish? Think about this, guys. I'm trying to convince Damon Lillard to give up basketball, come play receiver for me or DB. That guy's
Thank
making
God he
like
didn't listen to you.
$1 million or something,
Yeah, that's good stuff.
But if I would have had him in high school, he would have played high school football. I guarantee it, because I always get him play.
Well,
Good
Coach
job.
Bean, I really appreciate you coming on. It was a great honor to have you on for our
Well, thank you, Fish. I
podcast, and
appreciate you.
we look forward to having you on again.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
want to make one comment before we leave, right? So you talked about when you were at Garden City, correct? And you're going to play for the 2018 National Championship.
Yes, sir.
How can you play that? You didn't play Laney. We were the state #1 team in the country. So y'all came up with that little title. There's more schools that play football in California than the rest of the country combined. Did you know that?
Well, I didn't know that, Coach. I didn't know that. But, they say that the Kansas Jayhawk is almost like the SEC of JUCOs. You know what I mean? So,
I've seen the team on TV. I think we beat them. And then on top of which, there's this guy that does this. I forgot. This guy ranks everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we were the highest ranked 2-year school in the country, and the next two behind us were still from California before they came in with East Mississippi in 2018.
Oh, man.
So I just want to point that out.
It's all good, Coach. It's all good.
Giving some of that salary
this is
away
what we
from
get to talk about, right? That's why I liked it when it was just bowl games, right? Because then you could have all these conversations with your friend. Oh, my team was really the #1, not yours. But when the playoffs came, like, you couldn't have that little sideway, argument that we went 10-0, we should be #1,
That's
right?
what the Big 8 used to do, man. Go down the orange pole, beat on somebody, and say, hey,
Yeah, exactly. Get the ring, right? Exactly. Hey, guys, I really appreciate you all. Stay safe. Thank you so much. Shoot me the link, and I'll get it out to all my people,
Yep.
okay?
have a great evening, Coach.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Coach.
guys. Take care. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Coach.